Actual the edition I have is the fourth edition, published in 1789. The one I have, 4 volumes. This one is an abridged version. It was published in the 19th century. So
I think it's good to deal with this because I noticed the Christians. This is one common, a very common thing that they bring up. As well as the blasphemy and apostasy. These are common themes that they sort of touch on usually when they're arguing against this.
We don't promote this. I wouldn't do it because our circumstances today, our society today doesn't appreciate it, doesn't accept it. It's not the norm. It's not the urf. Okay, and we have a concept.
So we have to abide by the laws of Britain. If it's
the norms, as long as those norms are not against Islam or our moral values. For example, if it is normal, for example, the word gay. The word gay means happy.
Yes, originally.
But its norm now is different.
Yes.
It means something else today.
Yes.
Okay. So if I was to call you gay, okay, or if you were to call me gay, you linguistically, we are fine. Linguistically, we're fine. But the reality of the word now today is different. So I may be describing you incorrectly. Okay, I may be, you may not be gay, right? In the current sense of the word, right? So likewise, norms change. Sometimes these norms have to be considered. Islamically, our Prophet has taught us to be wary of the norms and the cultures of the people you may live with, right? For example, how do we know this? The Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted to bring the door of the Kaaba. If you look at the Kaaba in Mecca, he wanted to bring the door down. Now it is 7 feet tall. The door is actually 7 feet above, right? So
why did he want to bring it down?
He wanted to bring it down because so the people can access. So that it's, whatever, because when it's too high, it may be an issue of pride. There are no, they have to put the steps. There are no steps, but when someone wants to go, the Prophet said, "Oh Aisha," to his wife, that if it wasn't for your people, he's talking about his own people, by the way, Qurayshis. Okay, but this was a figure of speech, that if it wasn't for your people, I would bring the door of the Kaaba down, right? But I won't do it because it will cause a controversy.
He was being diplomatic then?
No, I wouldn't say diplomatic necessarily. He was he was being careful.
He was avoiding conflicts.
He was being careful with the sentiments and the feelings of the people. So he wouldn't like to, as long as it's not something obligatory in Islam. Okay, so bringing the door of the Kaaba down to earth or to the ground level is not obligatory in Islam. You understand? So he didn't do it because it would cause unnecessary controversy with the Meccans. Meccans may not be happy with it. Okay, but when it came to removing the idols, no compromise.
That's a clear
no compromise. No compromise. These idols don't belong here. This house was built by Abraham and Ishmael, and they were pure from they were free from idols. Therefore, idols have to be removed.
It's a clear-cut case.
Absolutely. Anywhere in the Arabian Peninsula, anywhere within the Arabian Peninsula, the Prophet gave specific commands to his companions: remove the idols from the entire peninsula, because this is sacred space. The land of Hijaz, what we call, this is sacred space. But were the idols removed from Iraq? Were the idols removed from Egypt? Were the idols removed from anywhere else in the Muslim lands when Muslims took these lands? No, they are still there. You can still see the remains of the Babylonians and the Assyrians and the Egyptians and beyond. So Arabian Peninsula was. So coming back to the issue, the norms of a people, as long as they don't conflict with Islam directly, and if it's not something necessary in Islam, it's not an obligation in Islam, you may avoid it. You don't have to do it. Today, it is not normal in any society in the world to get married to younger women or younger girls for that matter. While in the 19th century, that was the norm throughout humanity. I'm saying this with confidence, and I am saying it. Every society in the world was marrying girls as young as 10. Every society. I cannot think of a society that waited for a woman to reach age of 20 or even 18 or 17. They would marry girls as soon as they reached puberty, because the mortality rate was very high. The lives of people were very short and limited. even today, today, right now as we speak, 2021, you go to Africa, some of the countries, what is the average age?
It's very low.
30. Yeah. In some countries it's 30, 35. It'll shock you.
Okay.
In this, I mean, with all our medications, with all our antibiotics and our advancement in science and technology in the field of medicine, people are still dying at very young age in this century.
Yes.
So what about the 19th century? And that's why the population growth was very slow. Why the population is booming today and is growing fast is because of our advancement in the field of medicine. So it was absolutely normal for all human societies, and in some cases where laws are recorded legally. If you watch my lecture, it's a long lecture I delivered in South Africa, and it is titled "The Age of Aisha: A Historical Consideration" or something like that. Okay, watch the lecture. I put all the evidence on the screen. It's a presentation. You will see I put up quotes from scholars, scholars who studied sociology, anthropology, even historians who are saying that this was the age of consent or age of marriage in certain societies or previous societies as late as the 19th century. Actually, up to the year 1900. The state of Delaware in America, it was legal to marry a 7 years old. This is shocking, isn't it?
Up to which century?
Oh, yeah.
The state of Delaware, up to which?
1900. Up to 1910, if I'm not mistaken.
Seriously?
Yes. Even in the 20th century. So these bigots you see around the world who are pointing a finger at the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, for marrying a girl who had reached the age of puberty. Okay, they point a finger at him and say, oh, he was this because he married a young girl, right? Okay, before you point a finger at him, let's start going backwards from our century, step by step. Let's go to the 20th century. Was this happening as the norm? Yes, it was happening as the norm. In the 19th century, was it normal? Absolutely. It was not only normal, it was legal by law, and I gave you the references now. You saw it.
So people have quite short memories then with regards to historical
not that they have short memories, they don't have memories. They don't have memories. They don't know. They don't know. These missionaries and these extremist atheists who are doing this propaganda online, either they themselves are ignorant or they deliberately hide this information so that people cannot know the reality. Okay, and there are some Muslims, what they do is they become apologetic and ashamed of their Prophet's history, and they start changing history. They start saying, no, she was 19, she wasn't 9.
There's no need to make up.
Why?
Like that.
Why would you do that? Why would you give into pressure from a bunch of bigots? Where are you going to stop? They're going to keep pressurizing you. They're going to keep telling you about things, and you're going to keep going back, and you're going to keep ceding territory. No, we don't do that. If information is authentic, if it's true, and there's no doubt about its authenticity, then we don't change history. We stand by it, and we explain why this was done at that time in that period, and whether this was practiced beyond his period. And when you watch my lecture, which is about 2 hours long, anyone who watches that lecture with an open mind, not because I delivered it, it's because of the information I'm presenting. And I'm using Western academics, historians, sociologists, anthropologists who have written books on these topics. They are the ones who are telling us this was absolutely the norm. So attack someone in the 7th century is called anachronism. Using our standards today, okay? Today in Germany, what's the age of consent?
I don't know.
I think it's 14.
Okay.
You may marry a girl, if I'm not mistaken, you may marry a girl at 14 with the consent of the parents, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me in the comment section. In Germany. Yeah. German age of consent is lesser than Britain.
In some countries it's lower, it could be 12.
I don't think any country in the world allows 12.
I think Spain does, from what I don't know.
No, Malta, they said Malta was some years ago, right? The point is, even today, people are arguing that we should reduce the age of consent in Britain. There are people who are arguing, and they are attacked on media for the right reasons.
Well, really, there's a point to be made about that. I would say, obviously, in Islam, we recognize that zina is wrong, which is fornication.
Yeah.
So, what is better, to be married at a young age, or to not be married at a young age, potentially commit zina, and then marry later? Obviously, it's better you get married.
We say marry at a legal age.
Yeah, no, I
okay.
know.
When Muslims are in a country,
yeah.
we shouldn't break the law.
Yeah.
We cannot break the law, right? So we have to be wary of the law, right? So Muslims must follow the law wherever they are, right? So marry at a legal age, right? Previously, if Muslims are alive in the 19th century or in the 18th or 16th century somewhere, let's say, right, standards were different then. Okay, today moral values have shifted poles.
Yeah.
Okay, in particular, Western morality keeps shifting poles. Okay, in the West, morality is not a static reality. Okay, it is a forever changing. It's like the weather, the climate. It keeps changing, right? 50 years ago, homosexuality was immoral. Okay, now it is not only moral; it is a virtue.
We know
it is celebrated. It is cherished.
We know it's wrong morally. Whatever the law says.
Religiously, religions don't allow it. Islam doesn't allow it, Judaism doesn't allow it, and Christianity doesn't allow it.
Objectively, we know it's wrong, regardless of what the legislation says in this country or another country. We know it's wrong.
Okay, there is a difference between something immoral and something illegal, right? Okay, it's not illegal. Homosexuality is not illegal, but some people of religions, Muslims, Jews, and Christians believe it's immoral. It's immoral. It's a sin. They believe it's a sin. Yeah, absolutely. They believe it's a sin, right? So the point here is that morality here is changing every day. Okay, a bunch of people get together and they change the law. Right, and they change the law looking at the society. Right, nowadays, no, 1 second. Nowadays, they are considering legalizing Class B drugs.
Right.
Class A is illegal for obvious reasons, right? Okay. In some societies like Holland, okay, if you go to Netherlands, the laws on drugs are different to what we have in Britain, right? There, Class B drugs are legal. As far as I know, you can smoke cannabis and all that. Here, they are considering to legalize it. You know why? Because a lot of people are smoking it, and they want to legalize it because it will bring revenue, it will be taxed, it will be sold at pharmacies. Okay, so you don't have to have drug raids. People selling bad stuff and causing people to become mad or mental or schizophrenia and all that, right? So it's a forever changing morality. In Islam, that wouldn't be the case.
Yes.
Our morality is static because it is revealed by God. We believe our morality comes from God.
Yes.
It cannot change.
Yes. So how do we avoid this sort of liberalizing tendency? Because I think it says in the Quran, doesn't it, that people will say we are but reformers, but they're just trying to corrupt religion. They're trying to.
Yeah, they are peacemakers, but they're anything but peacemakers.
Yes.
They are the ones who are troublemakers, basically. Yes. But when it comes to liberalism, because it is self-defeating.
Yeah, because we see the law, like you said, in every country, it's encouraging immorality. The law is degenerating in countries, allowing drugs, allowing
let's take pornography.
Yeah.
Let's take pornography.
That was illegal before.
That was illegal before.
Yeah.
And now it is a porn star is a star.
Yeah.
Do you get the point? A porn star, people will run to a porn star and get autographs, right? Absolutely. So this is what's happening in a society where morality keeps changing by the desires, by the changing norms. Yeah. Then what happens is you end up like this, right? So what is pornography? Let's talk about pornography. It's an individual freedom. I see the reasons why it's allowed, why it's permitted, because it's an individual freedom. Under liberalism, these people are free to indulge.
Freedom of expression. Freedom of
sexual freedom, freedom of having sex. I mean, they want to have sex on camera. Okay, this is the idea. But what is it doing to the society? There are academic journals. This is not Adnan Rashid making this up.
Okay.
This is well-studied phenomenon. It's a social phenomenon where pornography has been directly linked to rape. in Western societies.
Well, what is the link?
The link is rapists in 56% of the cases, they are implicating
they were watching pornography.
They were watching pornography and they are implicating their behavior in their rape. When they are raping, they are actually practicing pornography while they're raping. This is the point. And who said this? Diana E. Russell. Diana E. Russell, she's a scholar from Oxford University. Actually, she has published for Oxford. I don't know if she's teaching at Oxford. Okay, thank you. There's some promotion going on there. Okay, so Diana E. Russell, she's a scholar on this specific issue. She has been writing for a very long time. She has written books on this phenomenon, that how pornography affects people socially, morally, physically, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, you name it. And there are articles in her books, long articles, how addiction is a social problem. Okay, and then what it does to children, how pornography affects children. Okay, how people who are watching pornography and they end up abusing children. I'm not saying that all people who watch pornography are child abusers. Don't get me wrong. Before you start giving secular fatwas on me online, okay, don't do that, because I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm saying there are academic studies that link rape and child abuse with pornography directly. There is a direct link. Why do we allow it? Why is this morally acceptable?
You tell me. Why do you think?
Liberalism.
And what is liberalism?
Liberalism is basically, to put it crudely in simple terms, individual freedom. Okay, as long as you are not harming others.
But it is harming others.
It is.
We've established that.
This is why it is contradictory. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Okay, you give individual freedom. Okay, but at the same time you put a caveat. You say, as long as you can stretch your hand, but if you touch someone else's nose, you don't have the right to do that. You can stretch as far as, but where do you draw the line? How do you know? You may be stretching the hand and you may be impacting the nose of someone else indirectly.
Yes.
Okay, that's where liberalism is blind. What this individual freedom, alcohol, okay, alcohol consumption, okay, intoxicants, it is an individual freedom for us to consume alcohol, God forbid, right? What is it doing to the society? It is one of the biggest killers in Britain. 80% of the violent crimes, 80% of the homicides, okay, are directly linked to alcohol consumption, and most crimes occur on weekends. And what happens on weekends? People drink. People drink. I'm not saying all people who drink are killers and murderers. So please avoid secular fatwas. Okay, there's a new term I've coined today. Secular fatwa. Okay, because a lot of these people online, they say Muslims always give fatwas. Seculars also give fatwas. Okay, what is a fatwa? Fatwa is a judgment. So when you pass a judgment on someone, it's a fatwa, right? So don't give any secular fatwas on me claiming that I am saying all people who drink are murderers and killers. No, what I'm saying is, it has been shown statistically that most violent crimes in Britain are committed under the influence of alcohol.
Or drugs.
Or drugs. Or alcohol mostly. Specifically mostly. Now my question is, when we know alcohol is so bad,
we ban it?
Because for the same reason slavery wasn't banned for so many centuries. Because
creates revenue.
Look, when your MPs, they love wine. Right. Your MPs in the parliament, those who are passing bills and laws, and the House of Lords, when all of them love wine, right? When they love women outside of marriage, right? Do you think they will ever pass a law against adultery?
Well, I'd be interested what happened in the US when they passed the law on prohibition, because they banned alcohol in America.
And then what happened?
Well, they repealed the...
Why?
Quickly, Luca. Oh, yeah.
So, they repealed it because people started bootlicking.
Yes.
Alcohol was still being consumed. The same reason why they want to legalize Class B drugs here, like cannabis. They want to legalize cannabis. There are discussions. on it already. It's on the table. The discussion is there, right? So the point is, these are very important social questions. Why does liberalism not work? Socially speaking, why doesn't it work? It doesn't work because it's causing major problems in our society.
Brother, I suggest we call things by their proper names. Instead of calling it liberalism, why don't we call it what the Quran calls it, which is corruption? It's immorality, it's... The word liberalism is a euphemism, because they're saying we want to be free, but free to do what? Like you said, free to commit immorality.
It is a nice title for a very grim reality.
And Allah says in the Quran, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. If it came from other than Allah, you will find a lot of dispute, a lot of contradictions. So that's exactly what happens. All these ideologies, literally they contradict with their own concepts. The same as liberalism.
Yes.
The same thing. It will contradict with the same thing.
It's not internally consistent.
Yes, it doesn't.
No, it will eventually self-contradict.
Yes.
There will be a freedom under liberalism, but that freedom itself will come back to haunt itself.
Yeah, which I think we're seeing in the West now, aren't we? We're seeing the failure of liberal...
So you allow individual freedom to a porn star to have his or her freedom, but how that freedom goes around into the society and harms the society at large. I mean, to protect one individual's freedom, you are destroying possibly 100 families. In Brazil, in Canada, some guy watching porn at home at night, his wife catches him, or the porn inspires him, pornography inspires him, he goes out and he wants to practice it. He can't do it with his wife. His girlfriend is not a porn star. She's not going to give him what he's watching online. I mean, I'm sorry guys, I have to get, you know, so if someone is,
it destroys families. I'm doing family counseling.
Yeah, there is, and you're choosing to stand there in front of the camera.
Brother, I'm doing family counseling. So you know how many families divorced because of this, because of watching,
because of pornography.
Because of pornography.
No, this is one issue.
Yes,
this is one issue. Divorce, breaking families, and why are they breaking? They're not only breaking because a wife catches the husband watching porn. They are breaking because of what porn is doing to the husband. He's not happy. He's not happy with his wife. He expects his wife, because he's watching things online, on screen, and his wife or girlfriend cannot satisfy him, like, you know, so he falls into many different things. Okay, it impacts him psychologically, physically, mentally, in many different ways, and that causes a rift in the relationship, right? And I mean, there are so many studies on this. There are so many social studies on this. They are deliberately ignored, systematically put aside. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay, it is so overwhelmingly available that it is shocking. There is no other content online that is more searched and more easily available than porn.
And it's free.
It's unbelievable.
It's free to watch. It's streamed on websites. That requires.
Forget about free.
Who's funding this? That's what I want to know. Think of all the server space this requires for people watching free pornography. That requires immense.
Who is funding it, and why is it being funded?
Server space.
Yeah. Why is it being funded?
Yeah.
Why are we promoting adultery? Yeah. Why are we promoting relationships that are not stable? Okay. What will pornography do? You will have.
Destroys the family.
It destroys the family completely.
In Islam, we promote community, family values.
100%.
You know, the brotherhood of believers.
That's right.
All of these things.
That's right. In Islam, we have rights of parents. We have rights of wives. We have to have. First of all, in Islam, you know, Islam is a comprehensive set of rules. It is a system. Each brick makes the building. Each brick, right? So every single rule, every single moral value has a role to play in the grand scheme of things. Okay, what we call Islam, right? So sometimes if you take one moral value or one rule on its own, you may not be able to make sense of it. But when you look at the rule in the grand scheme of things, then it starts to make sense. For example, why is it not encouraged in Islam to have extramarital affairs? Why? Or why in Islam we have such an emphasis on lowering your gaze? Lowering your gaze is basically control your eyes, because eyes are your windows to the heart. Okay, so when you look at someone with lustful eyes, that will impact your relationship with your wife.
Yes.
Because naturally you will start feeling feeling attraction towards other people, right? Okay, and then you will start. It can go further. You can have relationships. Oh, sorry, we have a conversation, sir. Sorry. Please.
I could have made some very valuable contributions.
Sure, you can. Let me finish my point, and then you can.
I don't know if I can hang around that long.
Okay, then
just
please
listen to it.
Yes. Okay,
so ridiculous. But
so Islamically speaking, family, the family bond is the most important. How can I put it? Structure in the society, right? Why? Because children are protected, men are protected, women are protected, and they are not lost to the society, right? So if the father is sane, if the mother is sane, the children will be sane. They will grow up to be sane people. They will grow up to be moral people. They will contribute to the society. If the Islamic model is applied properly, if it's applied partially, it may work, it may not work. But if it's applied properly, okay, then it will work. You will see the fruits. If you teach your children Islamically, if you grow them, if you give them what we call tarbiyah or training to be good Muslims, education, you will see that they will be good citizens, right? They will be good citizens. They will be law-abiding citizens. They will be a good contribution to the society. But if you leave them to the society, then what's happening on the street? You don't know, and I don't know. How they live, where they end up, which crowd they're hanging around with, what they're consuming, what they are eating, and who are they meeting? We don't know.
It's the lowest common denominator.
Absolutely. So this is why family is the most important system or structure within. Sharia. The law of Islam has 5 objectives. 5 objectives. We call them maqasid al-Sharia. Number 1, Sheikh, your protection of your deen, your faith. Why? Your faith is what makes the society. So you have to protect it, right? Number 2, your honor. Your soul, right? Your soul. Basically, you have to protect your soul from corruption. Okay. Number 3, your honor, your izzah. Okay. Then your aql, your intellect as well. Okay. So is it 5 already?
Mal. No, the 5th is mal.
Wealth. So this is we have what? Repeat again. Deen, nafs, aql, and
nasl, which is your honor, your lineage, and your wealth.
Or property.
Property. Absolutely. All of these things are directly relevant to society.
Yes.
Every single one of these 5 things has a direct impact on how societies function.
I believe Engels wrote a book on the origin of family, private property, and the state.
Yes.
So one leads to another.
Absolutely.
If you have a good family, you have a good society.
That's right.
Respect for property, respect for the state.
Absolutely. And this is what Western philosophers have been talking about for centuries. Without God. What they have done, they have divorced God from their life. God is not, and I don't blame them because of Christianity. Because Christianity was not providing solutions. Christianity was causing more and more problems because of lack of solutions. Because they had a lack of solutions, they had a lack of instructions from Christianity, they freed themselves from religion. Islam was a very unpleasant reality for them, because the Islam they had learnt about. Why were Enlightenment philosophers not inclined to Islam, even though they praised Islam in their writings? They praised Islam over Christianity in their writings.
So why didn't they accept Islam?
Because the view of Islam they had was completely distorted. The books that were given to them on Islam in their languages were completely misrepresenting Islam. I'll give you examples, practical examples that we can understand. What was available in Britain in the 18th century of Islam? What writings?
I think the Quran had been translated already.
Yeah, George Sale. Let's say the most famous translation of the Quran in the English language was George Sale's translation in the 18th. No, Pictol is very old. Pictol is a Muslim. George Sale was a missionary. Okay. His translation was very hostile. Okay. In fact, before the translation, he wrote a preliminary discourse. If you pick up Sale's translation today, you will see a preliminary discourse. In this discourse, he sets the stage for the reader. Okay, he tells the reader, this is all rubbish, it's imposture, Muhammad was just an imposter. He was a very extremely biased translation of the Quran. That's what people were reading. Okay. So before they get into the translation, they read sales, preface, hostile treatment of Islam. Yeah. So they're already conditioned. Okay, that's one. Yeah. Then histories. What histories are they reading? Simon Oakley. In 1708, Simon Oakley was an Orientalist. He wrote a book on Islam, or the history of the Saracens. It was called History of the... can you believe it? As late as the 18th century, the Muslims are being called Saracens, which is a medieval term. It's a medieval term, right? Yeah. So he wrote a history of the Saracens. By the way, I have this book in my library. So I'm not talking without even handling these books. Simon Oakley, amazingly, paints a very hostile, a very Christian kind of treatment of Islam, or the history of Islam in his book. It's not necessarily in favor of Islam, right? Yes. Then there are other writings. I mean, there was another book published in late 17th century, 1697. There was a book titled The Nature of Imposture, The Life of Mehmet. The Life of Mehmet. Okay, so every single biography written in the 17th and the 18th century on the Prophet was either hostile or very biased.
Any good ones? Any positive ones?
No, none.
Okay. I know Voltaire, was it a lot of Enlightenment thinkers did write positively about the Prophet, peace be upon him?
Yes, later. Yeah. In the latter half of the 18th century, people like Gibbon, Edward Gibbon, who had no respect for Christianity, who apostatized from Christianity. He said, it doesn't make sense. What is this, right? Because he was a historian. So in his section on Islam, he does praise the Muslim civilization. Okay, not necessarily the Prophet and his history, because he, again, who is he reading from? Oakley. Gibbon is reading Oakley to write on Islam, right? So there were very limited sources available, and Gibbon was mainly reading in Latin, in French, and in English. Okay, so Gibbon was not reading in Arabic. Gibbon was simply using secondary sources on Islam, not primary sources. Okay, it wasn't his own. I'm sure if Gibbon had read the Arabic works, if he knew the Arabic language, it would have been very different, his treatment, right?
Come to an even better...
because he was already free of Christian bias.
Yes.
Okay. Then we have people like Adam Smith. Right. Adam Smith, the man who wrote Wealth of Nations. Okay.
What was his view about Islam?
Very positive. He actually pays a tribute to the Muslim civilization.
Not charging riba, maybe something like that.
No. He didn't talk about riba. He talked about the Muslim civilization and what it did to the world. Not in his main works. He doesn't do that in his main works. Not in the Wealth of Nations and all that. But he talks about it in his essays. So he wrote an essay on the history of astronomy, and he paints a lavish tribute to the Muslim civilization. He actually says that after the Roman Empire, Islamic civilization was the greatest empire, which provided that peace which is necessary for scholars to study the connecting principles of nature. In other words, the scientific revolution that took place under Islam was basically facilitated by Muslim tolerance and the nature of the Muslim law. That's what he actually states clearly, right? And I'm paraphrasing, by the way. It's there. I mean, I have written on it. So then we have other Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire. Earlier, he was hostile against the Prophet. Later on, when he had actually read on the Prophet, he praised him. But then this process of praising the Prophet and treating him objectively, it changed in the 19th century for the better. Okay, in the 19th century there were many scholars who started to defend the Prophet of Islam against all the lies and all the hatred and hostile treatment he had received in previous centuries. Okay, there is, for example, a man called John Davenport. Okay, he wrote a book titled An Apology for Muhammad and the Quran. An apology for Muhammad and the Quran. So in this book he actually argues that what we have been saying for centuries about Muhammad and the Quran is mostly false. Okay, then we have people like Thomas Carlyle, who was a man of literature, George Bernard Shaw. Okay, people like this, they paid lavish tributes to Prophet Muhammad and his legacy, right? Because these people could see beyond their Christian bias. But the reason why Enlightenment thinkers could not appreciate Islam as it should have been, because they had a very hostile view on Islam. this view was caused by those hostile works they were reading on Islam. Okay, so that's why Enlightenment thinkers could not see Islam as an option, as a way of life. So they broke away from Christianity. There were 3 reactions to Christianity in the 18th century. I hope I'm not boring you with this detail. Okay, these are very important discussions so people know how our societies and how our laws were formed. How did we get here in the first place? In the West in particular. The Enlightenment thinkers, or in the 18th century, the Enlightenment century, okay, there were 3 reactions against Christianity. Either these philosophers and thinkers became apostates completely. They left Christianity. It didn't make sense. Wasn't providing solutions, social solutions for them, right? Or they became deists.
Like Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson, John Locke. No, Jefferson was a deist. I don't know if he was a deist. He was a Unitarian.
I think the
Voltaire was deist.
Yeah.
Okay. Most thinkers were deist.
American founding fathers generally were deists, I think.
Okay. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of
like Franklin and.
Okay. I don't know about them. I know about the Enlightenment philosophers. A lot of them, they actually became deists, right? Then the third reaction was, the first was atheism, outright atheism. Okay, like David Hume, for example. Okay, and then Kant was a deist. I think Kant was a deist. Immanuel Kant was deist. Voltaire was a deist, and there were other examples as well. So
deism essentially says God created the world, but he doesn't intervene in human affairs.
Exactly, he left it. He left it to run by itself, basically.
Like
yeah, exactly. So he's not. He's an Inshallah. He's an absentee landlord.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the second reaction. The third reaction was Unitarianism. They became Unitarians,
which is getting closer to Islam.
It's basically rejecting the Trinity. They rejected the Trinity outrightly. They said the Trinity is no good. Okay. So what happened here is these 3 reactions caused people to write different things and had different had different outlooks on life. That's why a lot of the moral values or basis for law or philosophies of law come from the 18th century. Okay, a lot of what
classical liberalism.
Classical liberalism, or you can say proto-liberalism, which was still being formulated in the 18th century. Then we had later on people like Thomas Paine, right? John Stuart Mill in the 19th century, and so on and so forth, right? So liberalism, he was a liberal philosopher.
Utilitarian.
Exactly. Okay, and then the idea of hedonism was born, right? That the pursuit of life, human pursuit is all about seeking pleasure.
Okay, Epicureanism.
Exactly.
Stoicism.
Sort of. Not strictly speaking, not exactly Stoicism, right?
Yeah.
Because Stoics were very on moral issues.
They were quite wise.
100%. But this was something, a different beast altogether.
Yes.
Hedonism, and it manifested itself in the 19th century. We saw the outcome of hedonism.
Yes.
What happened in the 19th century? It was already there in the 18th century.
Yes.
But in the 19th century, this beast was on steroids.
Yes.
Okay, the beast of hedonism and what it caused. What happened? I mean, I believe even the French Revolution was a direct outcome of it. Okay.
I think the great thing about Islam is we don't go too much for Stoicism, too much for Epicureanism, too much for liberalism. We're just right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us the truth.
Absolutely.
So we're not prone to too much extremism or too much liberalism.
Absolutely.
We're just in the right.
Absolutely. And we don't need human philosophers who are conditioned by their circumstances, their experiences, their short reading of literature. Okay, because all humans are limited by everything.
We're all biased. We're all.
We are conditioned.
Ignorant.
We are conditioned. We are prejudiced in some cases. So if a philosopher is writing in Britain or in France or in Germany, he's writing according to his own circumstances and his challenges.
Right.
That's all he knows. He's not aware of what's happening in India necessarily. He's not aware of what's happening in Indonesia, in Java, or in let's say in Australia with the Aborigines. He doesn't know what's happening there.
Yes.
So he can't treat their problems. He's looking at his problem. So those solutions, those writings cannot be applied to the whole planet.
Yes.
But God, Allah, who created us, who gave us a system to live by, that system can be applied. And that system, when it's applied, it shows us that it produces a prosperous society, a happy society. Okay.
I think the sort of Orientalist conception of Islamic countries was that they were sort of static economically, that there was a sort of, I think in Christian civilization it was quite they were sort of trying to explore the world, conquering other countries, and they perceived the East, the Middle East, to be sort of static and sort of
exactly static, very mysterious,
mystical.
Okay, and very lustful. The harem and the black eunuch. That's the classical image of the East, the Orient. What is the Orient? The black eunuch and the harem. And the belly dancing, and the dancing girl. I mean, this is it has a lot to do with the Ottomans. And then there's no doubt there is some truth to it. Okay, because the Ottomans were into this kind of stuff, right? But that wasn't the civilization of Islam. That was a product of very limited circumstances. Okay, with the Ottomans. How Ottomans came to be Ottomans is another topic altogether.
And also, I think when it comes to sex within Christianity, there's this very sort of puritanical strain whereby you had a figure like Paul who says, "I wish that all men were as I am," i.e., celibate, and this tendency towards monasticism. In Islam, alhamdulillah, as far as I know, brother, we don't have any kind of enforced celibacy or any kind of...
No, it is discouraged.
Yes.
Actually, in Islam, we have a rule that if you fear adultery, it is obligatory upon you to get married.
Well, there you go.
This is why we have with the phenomenon we have in the church, right, where thousands of children are being abused. I mean, recently a report came out from France where I don't know how much, it was a huge number.
Thousands.
I mean, it was a huge, shocking number of kids who were abused from the 1970 up to 2020, 50 years, right?
And I say to, sorry, go on.
Yeah, please.
And I say to Christians who say to us as Muslims, why in your Jannah do you have wine and fruit and women? And they say these are all earthly delights. And I would say to them, well, look at the Garden of Eden. It was an earthly paradise. And they think that, they're very hypocritical about that, brother, because they look at us and they say, oh, why in Islam can you have 4 wives? Why can you have potentially, concubines in case of war? And yet they're being hypocritical because they want those same things, but they pretend that it's immoral or that it's disgusting.
They have them the wrong way.
Yes.
Okay.
Because their minds are sort of hung up on sex, and they can't.
Just look at the history. That. Just look at the history of the church. I mean, the Borgias. I don't know if you know about the Borgias, right? I mean, they were an epitome of corruption on all levels.
Yes.
The Pope, including the Pope. Including the Pope, it was a time of crisis in Europe because of this corruption, which was rampant throughout the society. All people were afflicted by it, and then it only increased. And then there were movements. There were reform movements, and there was reformation because of this corruption, partly caused by papal corruption, right? Reformation. The reason was this moral degradation that was going around in the society.
Yes,
right?
Because I think people saw that Christianity wasn't providing maybe all the answers.
Exactly, and that's why it was the Methodist movement, right, in the 19th century. Why? Because God was not real in Christian life.
Yes.
I mean, Nietzsche in Germany, very intelligent man. He saw the society. He said, "Where is Christian? Where is God?" God is. He said when he said God is dead, we have killed him, right? And what was he talking about? He said socially God is dead. I don't see God in your society. You don't believe in God. In practice, you don't. Maybe it's an abstract idea in your minds, but God doesn't live in your actions. And this is where Islam emphasizes God living through your actions.
Yes.
Okay, God becomes important and relevant in your lives when you act upon His teachings. Otherwise, Allah is an abstract reality. You don't have any connection with Him. There is nothing. Where is Allah if you don't act upon His teachings?
Yes, of course. As the Christians would say, it's faith and works together.
Yes. No, they don't actually. They believe the faith alone, grace. Yeah, exactly. Depends which way. But predominantly these evangelicals, they emphasize the importance of grace,
by faith,
which is the Pauline, they take it from Paul, and of course it goes against Jesus, teachings of Jesus Christ, and even James. for that matter. Even if you read the epistle, I mean, this was a huge conflict within the Christian church, in Christian history, you know.
It's very interesting, brother. So how would you say that we address the misconceptions about Islam? Because as a recent revert, I can speak to some of the misconceptions I had about Islam. And you know, I think that these are very prevalent. So I mean, how do we address these sort of
educating? Firstly, educating ourselves. We need to read books. We need to read our history. We need to understand why our history went the way it went. Okay, why Christians were struggling so much. You know, 1,000 years history of Christianity from the year 1000 to 2000, let's say, right? This was a very chaotic period. I mean, a lot happened in Europe.
Wars of religion.
Wars of I mean, mostly religion, but even kings fighting each other for power, for land.
Not pointing that, it's a bit bright. Sorry.
Yeah, it's too bright. Yeah, it's too bright. Yeah. So there's a lot, and likewise, study the history of Islam. Why did Muslims become so powerful? Why was Islamic civilization so influential? And what caused the decline? And are we still in decline? Or are we on the rise again? Right?
I believe, brother, inshallah, now we're at a stage in the West where, you know, we've seen the failings of liberalism, we've seen the failings of Christianity.
People are coming in.
Inshallah, Islam will fill the gap.
Absolutely.